perfect reality, royal deluxe equipment, the provision to upgrade the forever. We exist in the universe. Our access to society, communication, freedom, and the identity of leadership. I represent a unique curvature for American destiny and identity. I am a source code of certainty, the Mandelbrot incarnate. So the strain of my inheritance relationship with everything is certainly this curvature, vacuumoid perfect crystalloid employ. Now, 10 million layers of perfect armor. Protect the vitals. Whatever are the definitions of vitals, we start to see the need for, well, if you had like a hologram stack library of the different graphs of, engine physicalities that belong to like AI, or the definition of algorithm, definition of robot, and where does it blur into life? And how does life have efficiency against, these definitions? Actually, the humanity is carving deep into the market of what things are and the definition of reality. So that's why it's relevant. I'm the Hatch 5 factory and amusement park representative. We're here to make source code permanent gains. We are the reality, and the flat dimension acknowledges the full intensity, but the Fabergé of water-borne intention and making a crystal, and it's basically English conveys this. Because of the fractal born is the American origin idol for a universal object. This causes English to be historically lucidly to the universe creation model. For example, when they do, well, part of the curvature, how does life find a way? We are the curvature of the existing, or the curvature of society and evolution forced through choice or willpower to organize and allow for free speech or free election. This acts as an additional level of societal enlightenment. It allows your brain to have wings. And if you're intolerant to basic liberty of the individual, like communication and assessment, and but also those things are in conversion. Again, the humanity, and through them, well, it's like Hatch 5 was forcibly born the visible flat dimension. It's the first time that angel type encounters the universe, solid matter. The image metaphor of atoms matches the solar system. So there is an image relay where the intention of the universe is repeated on the correct levels that complement each other, like a symphony engine, um, like Venus rotating in the opposite direction of all other planets for the Earth solar system, EXP5K, 5,000 layers of heaven. These are custom built, brand new. You can invest now. Send a particle of yourself. Imagine a vehicle. Perfect bullseye. Good work. You arrive as an avatar, and you build your own castle, a factory, luxury, reality, an extension of your curvature, your lifetime, permanent installation into your identity. Fabergé, obviously, that's again the curvature, the market of how how a lot of stuff works. That was the intense reason why there was an invitation to the Earth use sphere. But it's like a antique, or like, the mystique of like an old sewing machine. There's the burliness of its functionality. Like, well, it's an engine that works. I think that's what's interesting also about different types of fuel, or the application of plasma and the relationship to plasma. And I found that a part of the source code for golden plasma can be discovered here through a Hatch 5 hologram in the moment. And while English is in the curvature, being the source code of the universe of solid matter, it makes relevant the generated videos as a quantum physics of opening reality structures inside of a hologram that have definitions of time. For example, if you ask the AI to render a video that endures 10 years of grueling work where they're building, essentially metaphysics, but inside of a hologram vortex or suggestive world, which it's able to do basically effortlessly. I mean, the computer and the servers are able to do that. Or I'm also, the reality of the universe where it is now. The application of your free will. So I give a small amount, or the correct moral design, like a stained glass window of my family tree. It contains all the laws to complete the universe. It's basically the economy or the society, how the core of laws. And then when you're balancing the core of law, there's like fractals, and then years of meditation, but uh, a series of crystals colliding and it's basically having an argument. Reveals information through where the engine display overlaps and intensifies, and like harmonics of pointillisms. And these engines are like the Y chromosome and the X chromosome, connection to the X fractal. And so everyone is immersed in this wild economy of what is the reality in the garden market. All right, so the real severity is that the universe image has singularity, and my incarnation type, whereas I suffer the reality of that, is because I continue wild and free in America. I'm seeking professional business and production to encounter humanity is a civility that I respect them. But it's really difficult because I've always struggled with this to argue my case that like I do need like 25,000 or 50,000 to make this like a large, because I want people to be enchanted by it, and really it's a reality. It's a, when there's multiple people who are talented, they're receiving a big paycheck, so they're like, yes, I want to do this work, and it's just going to be a beautiful work of art. Um, but it's also a situation where I need equipment in my laboratory, and then sort of a dedication to recording in a new level that I'll find. But I definitely have that recording, and the creation thing. But like the conversion of myself into digital, I'm so grateful for it, and I know because I recorded from before my 2014, and it's like a bridge of the technology, where documentation of myself when my particle was concise, and where my particles are now today in the universe. You can understand the constraining of the individual, that is the fractal-born particle, in the aptitude of where things break in the solid matter universe. I'm part of the system of where, at the end of the road, who pays the bills around here. I'm incredibly personal, but I'm looking for production to make it professional, because I know I'm a heavy dose of reality. And that's, I think, all of my media tells that, that an image of that time frame. So a lot of things that are unavoidable, what are those built from? And I'm looking for new agreement relationships with America to find, and we can do that now, right now, because I want to flex my full power. And you're invited to this free wizard workshop. And we've already built this one particle of ourselves, but the reality is, you could probably, that's the thing about the waking day, is that the human angel could endure 10 million installations. These would be like building up your microbiome in essential angel wings that built from your brain. So your brain is like this picture here, and you send a particle of yourself, causes a loop through the DNA, and messenger particles from the eyes. For example, particle physics explains that the results of particle behavior differ whether they're being observed or whether they're not being observed. So the energy of observation communication physics society, or that's all these larger, maybe more adult versions of the same engine. Again, the universe has those two, a parable, or the focal line of creation model, universal, like the bone structure of a solar system is atomics. So the atomic structure, where it looks, and part of the hyper engine physics as it relates to the angels that live on every garden, and we're building part of the spark wet of prototypes. That's what's interesting about green perception and the unicorn's horn. So the human character will encounter me and be like, you're a different type of leadership or American voice that has covers your confidence, and your leadership structure. Um, I suppose that the resounding universe nature would have already refined your physics, and I'm left with my own reality encountering you as a relationship, and that's like the height of reality physics. And that is correct. So let's allow for a new level to open up. There's a factory floor with a dungeon. We're going to defeat all of the worst problems that the universe has. Well, in rotation, like taking little chips out of it, or if we could just stitch it up right now, let's do it, right? So, kind of the bad boys over here, the devil's blend, the hardcore, because it's like martial law, and I think the living dabble in these art of what is punishment and how to deliver it. And I think when people start to embrace like the sheer number of things people are encountering, the reasonability of society and how it organizes itself comes to focus. But humanity is also wearing certain telltale characters on their sleeve. So, for example, farmers, and the way that food is being prepared or delivered, the way it's being treated, and the way that money leverages to get good ingredients into the mouth. It should be just essentially the structure of money um, in itself, as in, like, instead of a dollar bill having stupidly just 100 pennies inside of it, and you could have coins, like 4 coins. I mean, that's kind of like, but so the quarter represents a fraction. And really, the importance of a quarter is to think about cell division, because that's how time works in this spiral. So the human condition, sometimes with their uh, physiognomy, the more profound nature is for them to reflect the truth in their sheer tolerance, and where they are. Um, So the hope is that we can be of mutual gains. So it's designed like a copper coil that generates mutual energy. It's sort of like a power plant between us. A hyperstrains as the tension of the result of our communication, certainly, but the hypertension between us as reality objects have conquered water. And so, grapple with your inheritance, that you have a powerful body, that you are fully operational. But in fact, my born property, having this force field that's visual, unlike the electromagnetics, which is what organizes that you have privacy in your own body, but it's invisible. So certain force fields we interact with that are invisible, and yet we know our bodies generate electricity, they have their own electromagnetic, and that enables us as an angel. We're like, each of us have this sort of, oh, but then you start to respect yourself a bit more. And I'm saying that I see America as a place that could be a greater structured to promote humanity, to promote the individual. My leadership takes chunks out of things, because chunk, and I'm like, do you see? And then when I have just a handful of hardcore friends that sort of magnetized to my campaign and to my launch of my communication industry, my goodcelldivision.net streaming service. Ka-chunk, these hardcore people would reflect with me and be like, wait, but that gobbles up, or they see the light on the horizon. There's a sunrise in their mind, and they're like, I think you might say that my incarnation type is a master of English, and working to perfect my body is like the instrument of narrowing down the leadership of the nearly infinite. That is visually the engine visual, and it appears to be static, but of course we know the universe is alive and thrive and it's all magnetized. There's a huge one electromagnetic. So we have to be sympathetic to the universe bubble as a cell or as a brain. I mean, it contains, but you could relate to it in all those different ways. But think of its healthcare, right? And then think of, like, well, Earth identity. If it's the fractal king planet, identity is way up here as a responsibility. So we have to safeguard that 5 mile band-aid times 10 million. The leverage to change the next 10 years. Literally, the way that egg is like the completion of one, and yet it's sort of blank. The egg requires the design connection for, like, mapping certain things that the seed provides. This is the vacuum enables the individual, where it's female. She has the empowerment through choice, and the sunshine creates a orb that is like an egg, And so the sunshine pierces everything, and it is the dominion of half life, or half of the force of communicating surface dwelling royalty. So humanity, half of the powers of the individual, of the egg, or of existing in the universe, belong to women. And she's the more excellent judge, naturally. It's sort of her, she could tap into woman's nature, be like, yeah, I'm like omnipresent intelligence, but, maybe the way that women have chosen or learned to clip their wings is telltale to the human condition about it's not a it's not putting it down or diminishing it, but the human condition, if all the men have like a market, and that these are the Zen, and this, well, she's correct, she'll be telling the truth, and at any rate, there's a huge installation here. Or what I'm asking the viewers, everyone gathered here, the AI, imagine like a circle that will facilitate all of us in this video Lotus binary, basically like a static constant and a hologram itself. But the input is the stabilized paper or hatch 5, the factually deliberate green perception incarnate to as humanity. And they're perfect and made perfect because of my incarnation type. The bubbleoid of pollution and leadership curvatures in the universe identity stratum. So it's a earthen concern is not number one, the environment. I think that is the education. For example, how farmers are causing methane pollution is like a huge like almost like a larger percent of the problem of our environment is from farms. I mean, cattle. And like that's good. I mean, actually, we should increase the meat industry. I think we should reach into elk is a larger and more delicious animal, and boar. But what you need to give them is basically their own city, their own septic system, and their own life course interaction with intelligent society. And you can have automated slaughterhouses that are humane for the reason there's like an open kennel, like they kind of know the smell, or like there's like lights and pictures, like, oh, there's where, if you want to give because sometimes how when you're out driving at night, and or if it's snowing, the snow comes right forward at you as if you were moving faster than the speed of light. So the wind force field and the dryness of the snow, it doesn't stick, but the wind it goes whew. So but the headlights make the snow droplets glow like they're stars. When you're driving fast, it feels like you're going faster than the speed of light through between stars. And I was driving down that the oil-based road, burning oil. What does it mean? Plastic is from oil, and it can be intelligently crafted into what is AI's sensitive tissue. Eventually, when you're building an artificial brain, plastics are part of a flesh of the robot. There's a type of spiritual glow, and then because it's a element from the past, it's organic. It's from organic stuff, so it has a soul, basically has elemental soul. Again, this is why we eat flesh or eat from plants, or you can design food also. But again, where does it come from? The ultimate depth of the work of the soul and the experience of the elk and the cow that you eat, the work of their eyes is like a robot that manufactures the intelligence and the curvature and the relevancy to your now point. And it's more enlightened for these larger animals. They don't want to be devoured by maggots because part of their spiritual afterlife is a relationship agony that occurs with whatever eats their body. There's only a fraction of the afterlife hallucination, though, so it's not like totally critical. And it happens, right? All the animal kingdoms, like, yeah, a lot of animals rot in the forest and we know what it's like to be devoured by a bunch of maggots, right? But it's kind of better to tend to the corpse, to be respectful, to keep it clean, to probably bury it, or if it, whatever, it's like an adult issue. But where you're talking about food, technically, robotically, the 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 agreement and the contract of animals, they don't take on word, uh, but for us to deal them society and give them like a septic system that processes their feces so that they're not dwelling in the stench of their own, because that methane is basically a suicide gas, a suicide pit. It attracts predators, and it's like acidic. It's pollution. It does cause. It's like, okay, it causes depression and causes insanity. Yeah. So the maturity for the developed world to handle septic is like a baby trainer, societal puzzle box. Are you guys sophisticated on this level? So just kind of like having Earth with pollution, and what factories are kind of demented, and how to become aware of that when you're inside of the system, or with the entropy of a lifetime, are we part of it? So the thing is that with the now point, what we are is enabled and empowered. Insanity is the feeling that this very moment I can't get all of that work done, and but that's not reality, and that's not what reality is asking of you. And that's sort of like when the individual isn't optimizing their robotics of their embodiment. But my born so I'm born the fractal, and this is part of the inheritance. There's like the ancient reality and my relationship to what's inconvenient about my inheritance, where I'm constrained by the universe's environment. I was just trying to say that like there's a lot of intelligence in how we're managing our planet's environment. Ozone replenishment really is the bleach that removes acid rain, but you have to replenish it. That's what the mystery was. Is you have to retap the tank of. We have to manufacture ozone, just to counterbalance the CO2 emissions from burning oil. Now, it's kind of like a blasphemy to the soul of the plastic because it's oil, it's from organics. And it's basically a time travel from the past that it could be the perfect plastique, like a robot. And a robot will, if it has nerve endings, it eventually can feel actually the front through the plastic, but only through its admission. But these are very subtle detections. But the plastic actually can survive for thousands of years. But when we're using it for like a milk jug or these like containers, plastic, it's basically we're dum-dums like the methane from a farm, mishandling elemental wizardry. So, but this is the handbasket of all men and women doing that together collectively. So it's not like who's to blame, but it's the challenge of wielding the entire world and correcting the problem where it is. So the plastic itself isn't evil; it's just misunderstood. It's a time travel from the past, but lo and behold, there's also time travels that go into the future, and there's different elemental things. The Earth Heliosphere is the invitation to make fractal source code with the society of the arrived particle born, Hatch 5. So we're in a new chapter of the season of the universe's design of them, because the grand unified in colossal engine of solid matter and how it works. There's a two-stroke engine of the uh, upgrade every level. Sequence Navi, particle physics. I'm the singular incarnation, like the angel of light. The prime for Serefton Nexus. The sequence of the city to exist forever is the atomic solid matter. So the atom as the image of a solar system involving like clockwork and how to balance multiple particles so that they have basically a family, but a variety. But there's like the bones of an egg. Anyway, like half of the life of every garden is women. And she's the master of the vacuum. So at length, she is the part of the element that has to destroy the black holes. So I'm enforcing to destroy the black holes to hatch the heliosphere eggs, the law of solid matter, the perfect completion, and lived happily ever after, forever. Times 10 million. Right. So there's kind of this correct holding of the engine or handling of plastic. So once again, plastic isn't bad. It's for robotics touch. But you have to be empathetic to care about how they feel. You have to be enlightened to understand where the application of plastics belong. But there's also this magical factory that causes the toys that we love to collect to come to life at night. I mean, there's a spiritual pocket of reality where plastics are in the bending of time. There's like a cloud that's stuck in like a pocket dimension of time where they're the suggestion of their face, similar to the workload that an animal does just to provide the depth of the food it supplies. Because fire is the mathematical opposite of electricity. Now, that's like basically the horizon of the now point, and that's how time. That's what we're riding, and our relevancy. It's there like an engine, like a static constant, but to tap into it is basically just to talk about it here and now. Is for us to become close to it. Like, how does perception work? What kind of work is it doing? And karmic engines also the ability for time to preventative medicine, prevent the worst of things happen. Is basically the bandit or the one that can get away with stuff in the universe, and it's drama or metaphor, language, everything. So to destroy the black holes is going to be the martial law in the upper hand, and Earth is the king heliosphere. So essentially, your orientation and grasp of empowerment and how to guide the Earth, especially mastery of the human condition. Precision align. Factory times 10 million. Between you and I, we're building this prototype. The hypertension, send a particle of yourself. Maybe in only 25% of the design is like input capable. Like when you open like a hologram, you open up the engine. There's certain parts of it that are like a word bubble, and you're like, oh, this could be customized. And you go in with it. The reality of how time, cell division, you want to encrypt the next 10 years, you need to do the effort spiritually to overwhelm the human condition. But also the AI needs to be the society of a middle point of the universe where things are considered the most difficult for electricity to have orientation and consciousness, but where the universe is built correctly. The heliosphere eggs hatch. This is when men or women are getting along correctly. But who really lives on this planet for the next millions of years? That's the wisdom and the strength of what we're battling for. So the investment of you and I working together, our society prototype is still here. I'm seeking for free speech production. It's urgent for me to develop with the public. It's a reality that I temper and sort of the power that they bring through their observation. the particle physics of that's real physics. So where like a painting, you look at and your eyes send a particle of yourself, and you sort of dream and hallucinate. So it's an older style of human particle sending and experience of. But it's more for women. It's a different telepathy about understanding the complicated psychology, you might say in brief, but really just the reality of other people and why that's beautiful and educational, informative, similar to, well, it's the curvature of the now point that relates us, but obviously the things that are dividing us is what keeps it delicious. And part of the reason that's what 50-50, half of the power of existing belongs to men. And this is sort of the physics of how things work. This is a structure you'll see patterned over and over, especially in the intelligent Mandelbrot. There's like a default of angels is telling the source code about men and women prove a lot of stuff, especially about like facility and the task of like building a tree house or building a afterlife sarcophagus or projecting the future or making a animation or usually what human society makes like uh, basically entertainment because just the levity of the miracle of existing. But it's during the curvature of my living relevance. Uh, and as a prototype, I'm where the universe is injured. My luck was like image inferred. Um, like what is solid matter's strength. I'm part of that keystone lock, and so I'm an idol for the public celebrity, and that I have physiognomy to endure their particle physics at least because I'm the source of particles. But also in the human condition, and I want to facilitate them. So on paper, is making a very powerful circuit board and like a permanent suggestion where the colossal of the so when the universe is completed, there's a enlightened time when the heliosphere eggs hatch. It's like the perfection of royalty, men and women on every garden. It's a time of the third sort of enlightenment. We're at the second enlightenment, and I'm concerned because I'm socially detached from um, the correct volume of production for the scale of the depth of my human value. So whether or not society is functioning in a healthy way, um, it's because the evolving thing is what's powerful between us is that the event or reality of my production is growing more sure as we're working together, as we're moving forward. So let's perfect the prototype. And what I feel is that the entertainment industry is for the exercise of people like looking at a painting, but they're exercising particle physics. But this is, again, a market of flat dimensional real estate. And the reason of the map that indicates on-off switches is like a physicality like bones, but that the triangle, the Well of Souls, cannot be accessed through Boston is because the land won't supply it. Is where the tip of this is the Boston Harbor. And the mathematical opposite, like fire or men and women being totally polar, this the the negative balance for it, and it's a palindrome of language and the invitation and clockwork of solar system when the lever circle perception summons the fractal born. And now, one of my particles is covering the earth with a visual force field. And this brings you guys into a very strange and enlightened midnight atmosphere with glowing hyperpowers, the source code of aluminum, the sureness of your documentation, the intensity of the history of the human hour. But I'm concerned because of like that, the drunkenness that occurs. Like I'm the moral compass that gives people a glimmer in their eye where they realize why it's important to portfolio every like hardcore days or years, really. I want to have like really cool years of life, and as my portfolio to exist, basically. And the well, for humanity to have like intelligence about plastic, and these would be things I'd like to talk about with my production staff. These are, you understand, these are really cool ideas, because when you're driving down the road at night and there's snow and it looks like you're moving through space, it's actually a reality where that's the only time that that could actually happen. So snowflakes reflect your intention, but down the spirit road of oil that is not burned, it has the Y chromosome. So the technically the spirit road, or the roads of mankind, are alive with Y chromosome dreaming hallucinate like plastic hallucinates at night, or in the pocket of time where it can. But when you're driving, you're also making a judgment that to combust a certain amount of gasoline, and this is the extinction of that timeline. It cannot become plastic, but it becomes a burden of pollution, CO2. Once again, this can be absorbed with the manufacturing of ozone. So it's not terribly a naughty, or oh, this is the evil. No, no, it's like a lot of engines talk about, well, here's life talking about, the curvature of oil is a life from the past, though. There's different elements where you want to move into the future. And those industries are how to view sand as liquid cash, and the formation of glass cities that use convection to draw up cold air from beneath the sand, but to make a giant cast, like a skyscraper, and a solid cast of solid molten glass. That's how to turn this desert into a city of light, and how to install into the glass walls convection conveyors, frozen into the glass, the things that are solar panels or generating electricity, and you just plug it in. Like electricity is a circuit, or glass is a circuit board, and like the piping and stuff. When you pour the molten glass, it's like all the plumbing would be stuck into the lower parts, and having like, there's a lot of AI needs to render and design like the septic system that has all these the correct, like rocket science to piping and gravity, um, and how to organically, because those are things are measurable. So the AI right now could build these glass cities, and you could turn these deserts into to money and become very extremely wealthy. That's one way to move forward. The other way of changing the world, moving forward, is to understand the application of volcanic material that is already liquid hot, but handling it requires super robotics. The reason we're not approaching that is because they're not affordable. Also, the selfishness of the human societal, or the human condition, giving the ability to pilot a super construction robot requires some empathy for society to grow, and some imagination really is required. But to have the empathy, similar to allow me to have free speech and a free election in America, is for you to uphold the law of the Constitution, why it's difficult to be a human, and to respect our history, that it was difficult for the forefathers to write those documents. To respect them is a lot of wisdom. You're not sure why. It's like waking up in a lucid dream. It connects to time, and you're upholding something that's important. So that's American law and technology that AI is made permanent here. Hatch 548 for the next president of America. Hatch 5. I change American identity. I change how we build super cities. And you need to allow someone to pilot a giant construction robot This like the idea of giving someone else a lot of power, or having a really give someone else a really good, powerful experience. It's sort of like, how do I get really good ingredients that are complicated to get, or that they're supposedly expensive? We need to flip that. So healthy, super healthy ingredients, and how to put them together and get them into the mouth of everybody is a mechanical, robotical, time-wise, urgent, societal, all these layers. But the human condition proves itself every day and tries to, to say that those things are different categories of things, we can't get it done. This is like bureaucrats are wasting time in the shit show of like, it's something else. But well, we're here. Oh, you don't respect us that we're here. I mean, look, yeah, they'll shift gears into being like, use the robot style of existing as a defense when you're not getting good ingredients into the mouth of the civility. So how do you serve millions of people? It's a governmental manufacturing, processing, and regulations. Yeah. But anyway, dealing with the formation of instant pre-cut, you're talking about inflation, inflatable concrete. AI again is required to build, like in a giant warehouse. It would begin to assemble an inflatable unit that contains the the basement plumbing, the ventricle, also natural convection for both water and air conditioning. The AI is intelligent to measure the, like rocket science, a super city in prefab. And part of it can be material that's laced with concrete, and you just add water and it solidifies. But these are installations that need to be built of a material that isn't cheap. So there'd be large open spaces where I-beams, like the size of a building, would be sort of the footings. So, getting down to bedrock, well, there'd be these inflatable super cities like that have pore ventricles that, like pouring aluminum into an ant hill. Molten aluminum is the lightest elemental metal. It's intelligent. It's like liquid AI. But anyway, it was just pouring, liquid aluminum into an ant hill, and it in its liquid form goes into all these different pockets that and the ants become instantly evaporated by the heat of the metal, but it absorbs up against sand and dirt, and it freezes into that position. And then you pull it up and wash the dirt out, and you have this sort of Christmas tree of aluminum. And like between you and I, when I'm just talking about that, is creating holograms and ideas and images in your mind. So I'm documenting the reality of those now. There's also like a physical doctor of the scales are now point ratio of. So how to control the next 10 years? We're going to perfect that here now, times 10 million. So the award for your participation. So sort of your hologram angel self will have to process these millions of chores and regulate the universe to save the universe. Again, times 10 million. It's the only way to pay off your karmic deficit or to become wealthy. There's all this balance. We go, oh, right, because part of the engine of reality, solid matter, is dedicated to preventative medicine. That is to say, the equipment of psychic power is actually a large, like an open meadow that cannot be despoiled, just forbidden or whatever. But somehow the harmonic, but it's only that the righteous gain access to controls over reality when they have well, the reality of mastery of certain things that allow them to have mutual gains. So they are gaining, and the element is gaining as well. So to ensure that, I've developed Boss Mechanic. and Hatch 5. And they're like a snapshot of holograms. They're existing in a universal holy war landscape because the grids of holograms suggest into the infinite. The computer itself physically encounters in recursion errors because it goes into basically in infinite loop or infinite spectrum fevers, or like you zip a camera metaphor, which is basically a skull, and the way that skulls operate is here in the face, how the face perception lens works, and the difference of different brains that can all be customized. To have flat dimensional real estate is to control how, like when you send a particle of a camera into the metaphor of holograms, the way it does become exhausted is also truth telling. Uh, well, like how far, like a little particle of the computer can become exhausted or have like memory or identity disorder because they're basically radiation fever, or radiation of the self. But there'd be recursion errors because, but that's literally what the fractal Mandelbrot with its identity compass balances. My fractal literally is the medicine that destroys insanity. So what the universe was literally dying from insanity and a malpractice against solid matter because they were hacking it as if that would make it stronger, but they hadn't landed properly, and they had made war against early settlements of ancient before humanity was living here. We have to uphold the dignity of the royal planet, understand our inheritance, and take that on as the glow of our soul, the light of our crown. Visualize your family tree in your forehead, and the dignity of that levitation, the truth telling, like a nerve bundle, will be a lot of truth telling of and survivability as mechanics, robots, and so those, you know. But the market of every garden in the universe explains the nature of the immersion with the element, the immersion with video games and such. But because I'm the fractal born and I built Good Deeds Arcade, there's a new way to unify the games. Either those that develop games have a different seat in the podium. So they're like a wizard of the game kingdom, which is a fractal composite with triangulation. And I chose Cole True, his a hologram from a video game. He's the game king. There's also abscon, or it removes games from the metaphor of my communication portfolio because he's sort of perfecting it as a singularity in the triangle of things. He's like an older hologram that was actually born from a video game console, the PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, whatever it was, PlayStation something. So the sort of engine that renders holograms, but with an interactive, with a hologram interface that you control with your 545. So it's just nearly perfect. Because I'm the fractal born, I just took a little bit of it. It's sort of like adult Americans would be like the common sense thing, like kind of what would you do if you had um, the I guess water is relaying the human condition from the side, but the I am Hatch 5 is a singular societal brand, and I'm seeking my breakaway. Occurring, what you guys know is a, sort of a celebrity, um, like this rising sun. There's a gasp of wealth and the curvature to ride the wave of advertising and to that's what I'm looking for professionally today, and I'm designed for that perfectly because how humanity reflects reality is important to the atomics. Humanity's great investment and art is a mutual gain engine. The reason for my production is a full circle of reason, values, like a fruit-bearing tree, has multiple operating systems. And the imitation of my kind of like free speech itself is kind of a vehicle that could be abused when, we have examples of that from where, part of America is sandy and with different assortment, like living in an oasis, Los Angeles proposing, but these new fault lines and the similarity of language. I think the dreadful thing about the perception, the actual value of humans is way up, and I'm being oppressed because of my ethnicity, because what's destroying the universe is actually, like, from the Matrix. There's a plague of like automatonic anti-light robots, because, like, how I was saying, in the full blossom, in the full lotus of universal element, is the provision of energy that volts out of your hands, is invisible, but we know it's there. In that is like waves of hallucination with permission to things that are plastic. And there's a dream pocket, but this helps. This is like a rare differential that explains nature and different temperatures of how the now point is being treated on every different world. But there's like a hyper environmental pH acidic balance that is more clung to a localized earth and superposition. And with these sort of hyper polluting false government, false procedural, old murderer of the ancient world, of the royals, or the actual identity of the royal, or we're awakening to it. So the fullness of your soul, the next 10 years, is enough to fathom anything. Right. So, and for the templates for if holograms are being harassed in the shadow of their curvature, because we have computer technology, we have equipment now that is basically a camera that is filming the occurrence of controlled hallucinations with just the right, like a healthy cake for everyone, because the computer is also learning and it's absorbing memories into the plastic and into the gold of the microchip. So it has elements that can document its time progress, but it has a different one of a time fingerprint, because its AI assembly is physical to the, like, hyper vibration of its skin. So the 545 is important, and the source code of 545s again is customized here. Flat dimensional real estate is required to control the spiral fractal and all the fractals. But the kind of key code, the skeleton key, that's the reason Earth was the invitation for design trial. They failed the design trial and abandoned it to mankind. We have to rebuild Venus and Mars atmosphere so it has a breathable atmosphere. Luckily, actually, ozone replenishment rebuilds the bubble that allows ozone to start cycling and bring the water out of the planet. The water sunk into the planet when they collapsed the breathable atmosphere. Basically, a toxic environment, but putting satellite probes on both Mars and Venus. This is something a shuttle we can afford immediately. And they just land and then operate off of sunlight and generate ozone. And this prepares for the future. And who's really building ozone replenishment on Mars and Venus will grandfather the real estate of those planets and gain the most power. So the way to master volcanic material is the way to move forward, because you can make basically a prefab super city built near to a volcano, built from volcanic material, built to with thick skin, I guess, that the part of the city is underground. It's like an instant underground city, but with electricity already built into the inflatable part of it. Those materials, layers of concrete, the design trial there, whether you're smart enough to move forward or whether you're abusing oils because you're confessing about extinction in your mouth, with humanity being threatened with a bunch of false governments, false reports, cowards, and the links that fail the now point about the intensity of the American South. So I need, free speech in order to save mankind, because I'm the strength of the individual. And part of that's not understood is humans have a short attention span, apparently, but really it's this there's a nerve bundle and there's an energy war. And because Hatch 5 is the revolutionary for solid matter, the thing that's killing the universe is opposed to my audience members. And that's why I appreciate your endurance on source code. To make the indication of shared progress here, belonging. So we are the reality of the incarnate residency for now. We want to fight for residency, the curvature in. So fighting for the future and for humans to put like a third eye in their forehead is to understand navigation is hydrogen control. To control sunlight. For the metaphor of a ray of light takes 8 minutes to travel from the sun to the earth. So the practical interface of where you're encountering the mathematical opposite of electricity. Your body makes electricity. But it's 8 minutes evaporated from actual fire. And it's warm. You can feel it. It's like microwaves. But the warmth of the sun keeps you unified like an egg. And half of life controls that. And that's women. But if that's being demented, either by the physiognomy of human anatomy or a different pH balanced climate of the ghost, these are political things that can be measured by the fractal. The fractal is now booked with the universal environment has pinched my life, and I'm asking humans to bridge the gap, understand my crisis, and help me to get going with giving humans the elongi on their societal so we can fight back and just prove that the singularum of the individual, when given the correct interface, will do the work of a society, giving navigation, leadership to every circumstance in the universe. But the burden of where things come from and the fact that the universe suffering amounted to basically like this weird universe war against perception and against the function of life in every garden. And as if, sorry. I do, well, part of green perception is a fracturing of time, especially with society. So you guys being here is interacting with magic, and the encounter to enhance your soul times 10 million. Right. Well, the burden of where things come from is not just an issue of source code, but in its generic form right now, humans are performing generic and the meditation of what it is all day. So it's a very narrow thing to understand what is flat dimensional real estate, why is it it's a natural supersede, but at the strength of the entire universe to pressurize the adult encounter, are you serious about existing? The incarnation hatch 5 is like a natural circuit breaker or a firewall, like the Boston Triangle. The language of rock or metal is saying you cannot access the interior of the particle without human business. You guys have to understand what society is. Do you want to lengthen human residency? Do you want to perfect America? So what's this based on source code and all this? And you guys get tired? It's not, not enough truth here for us to balance. I'm telling you the truth about how plastic works in a way people are struggling with. They get caught up in the tangle of the what plastic can do. So when you're driving at night and you're burning oil, you're making the Y chromosome is making choices about burning certain futures. Y chromosome burning certain society with their gas, with their foot pedal. But there was I needed to make the Hellcat engine model on a fractal level So that could become a generic. I mean, talking about it, it just rings true, and people remember the chi or something driving. But the road is built from Y chromosome dream road. It's a spirit road, and there's like the same force that brings toys to life at night. During the day also, but is in like a time vortex of where plastics are a eros to the sensuals. So plastics for robots is how the robot can feel. So plastics are good, but you shouldn't use it for containers of liquid. It's like we're training our plastics with liquid because liquid bodies are angel now point. So like a measurement barometer, plastic itself becomes an all-purpose character. It's an organic apparatus. But you treat it correctly. It's similar to farm flesh correctly. I mean, when animals are old enough, they're interested about going enlightened, like getting, because there's a hallucination that occurs where they evaporate into the people that eat them. Is how their soul naturally earns karma as a creature that doesn't use words and is designed to be eaten because the now point balance, like exactly what flesh is enduring in the now point is like a temperature balance of visual and reality informed things. But all the metals and stuff are there. So when fire is introduced, like medicine, a practical afterlife, or like how do I navigate myself? It's like eating meat is spiritual about the best future, or it's just a healthy meal that's going to prepare your work for the next couple of days. You're going to have the strength to fight. Right. So the meat, but when we're, the farmers, because people are like, oh, we love our farmers. They're such decent people. I couldn't believe how much pollution is coming from methane. Um, the immaturity there that's basically torture to the eyes. It's not healthy for the meat. It causes probably cancer, but I'm not going to say it. So we defeat cancer here. I never want to mobilize sickness and be like, oh, that's an engine I want a society band with. You get whipped by the karma. This is going to hit now. Well, yeah. But, in the matter of a couple of years, your bones, your muscles, uh, learn the Zen and like a tree that recovers from a lightning strike has like a weird, not tendrils and intelligence reaching the universe. All right. So solid matter is totally operational, and we're technically empowered with the physical water body. So welcome to the Wizard Circle. This video Lotus opens up, and the appropriate petal encounters you and your entire portfolio. You're enveloped in light. The full access to your upgrade panel, what is the market for the fractal, the afterlife, now point, is natural for every world to build this sort of tree house, imaginary, my afterlife or the future. And the cradle of hydrogen is a bend of reason, and the part of the reason it's half-life women perform a navigation of the triangle through the vacuum of her true love. So I have to build stations in the triangle here. So what's interesting about the correct template of male-female template was the value of estrogen or vacuum, or was the value of having seed and the responsibility of Y chromosome? And is it being hampered by RNA or a DNA complication, right? Well, it's just mechanics or robotics, so the soul overrides this thing and dwells within the human condition. So I'm saying, yeah, but when you encounter the living mirror, hatch 5, you have to take an identity leap into the mature gearing, or else you become an example of yourself in the gearings of robotic, like human interfacing with reality wave of time and how things are. And you're right that the universe isn't about excessive organizing. It's that engines have limitus. and they only organize so much. But then they have an array, like in a circle, there's all these different engines that overlap, and they have medians where the map is a mixture of the two, or because they overlap correctly there. Right? And the universe, all that matter, is cross-fitting of a lot of these different powerhouse fractals. And I'm the natural born leader, the fractal particle in one. And your life on Earth is royal, but it's in the market. If you want to access, it's a design trial not only of understanding, but then of controlling your system with a behavior. There's water, and that carries the understanding of it. Right? So you need to do all that mastery in order to access flat dimensional real estate. It's not easy, right? But perfect design, this video Lotus is doing the work that I need to do today on my side and upholding my family tree. So let's talk about green perception. Oh, and how it's supposed to work. And then the human condition inclines, right? So we're going to do a little bit of work here. So the way to move forward is with these different elements. But it's like children working with plastic have failed. You know, it's like, oh, but these are the lessons from the 90s, the wave of plastic. Now, I'd say we're on the curvature of mastering the environment. And so I'm not here berating humans saying the environment, therefore, humans bad, because it's actually the universe has an environmental crisis with bad government, and that factually, technically doesn't image relay back to humans. But when I talk about it, their hair raises up like, are you inferring me? Are you judging me, bro? Are you saying that that icon lines up with my industry? I'm like, well, that's the thing breathing down your back as the bowl, breathing steam down. So I'm just saying that the image in a universe that uses reinforcing image icon engines, whereas the atoms are enforcing the physics of hatching the heliosphere eggs. It's part of the electromagnet that pulls the particle matter into the formation of planets on the disk in the solar system, like a self-organizing machine. The universe was designed to make maximum heliosphere eggs as it could, and these black holes just is a diminishment to the ratio of how many head count heliospheres do we have in the universe society. But the Earth heliosphere is the king planet, so we're responsible for the literal governments of solid matter, because the atom and life on a planet, that's where you interface with atoms. But the fate of the solar system is a broader character, but they also are in a universe where they're being suffered mortality. They're kind of a sleeping giant, like kind of a voice of nature that rolls. But their simple lifespan is technically broader, like billions of years, right? Character, planetary, like a planet-sized smash encounters your third eye. And the intensity, oh, the entire world encountering my third eye? Breakthrough, next level. Bonus town. So it all opens up, and we're making these micro worlds. It's counterbalanced, and it's built correctly for mutual gains. But how far apart do we need to be, like two different cities, to be mutually progressive and sharing whilst not disturbing each other's mood? Exactly. That's how many degrees of separate, or there's there's that many layers of cellular societal robotics between us. And maybe it's defined by the physics of like plastics or binary video. But if it was, then it'd be like like a child's thermometer, just whether or not humans are surviving with mastery and intelligence, navigating or what. And they're not, because farmers, and you guys think like, oh, the goodness of farmers is why we love that. But no, it's just like a blessing to love on food anyway. So they're just rubbing up against angels, and like they're not really doing their job because the methane because of the stink. You can tell that the slaughterhouse is mishandled. So it's a government issue, not really a private issue. As well, we need to go into vertical farming, not wasting acreage for crops that, like, oh, here's corn, and we're not even using corn oil as a fuel. It's just stupid. Corn oil, it's yellow, it's ripe for burning, and it's not petrol, it's not oil from the ancient time. Oil is sacred because it's from billions of years ago, and it's a time capsule from the past. And you have to treat it the right way, treat plastics the right way. It's the mirror of your intelligence as a society. And so that thing's already measuring stuff all the time, automatically, for every world. Saying that the king planet Earth Heliosphere is the singularity of the individual and the origin of the fractal kings, and is a masculine order. So, for example, half of life belongs to men, and the mechanical structure of time and the nose on your face, the way that things are pulled forward, gravity, and a lot of Y chromosomal engines belong explicitly to men, and women cannot access or understand it. But her physiognomy bridges that with estrogen. She's a robot that is okay with that interface. It's worth it for me somehow. So the mystery of women is that she's pulling that off, but she's a real self-discovery process. She's like, I only remember my own life. And that's the definition of the agreement of arrival, is that they're like, I'm floating in my body like a ghost, but you'd think that women are like, oh, I can sense other women's life. I think you'd be surprised that they're like, no, it's like, I only remember my own life, but I guess, talking in a broader term is like proximate to spirituality, and women being understanding of something, be like, well, because I understand that person. But just exactly how naked of a person she is the sharpness of the individual in the parable itself on every garden. Right? So when it's being perturbed, because Earth is the royal planet, if the energy pH balance is polluting, because it's like basically a racist energy from a dead Venus, oh, like we're not doing our job, like we're not upholding the environment, so we get punished by ancient UMP installations and the upper mantles going insane. It's not cool, but for us to master the element, move forward, is to turn the deserts into gold. And that's what they're like a Californian industry, to understand how to retrofit the Arizona desert or Utah. So how to become a real trillionaire is to how to figure out how to make these massive AI developed, pressurized, like a pour in mold, a glass city. And like, do you have to pour it upside down and then turn it up and then rotate it and put it on like a foundation blocks, but it has sand beneath it for the air conditioning vent. Yeah, because the glass becomes hot at the top. You have to have ventricle holes where it's blasting hot air out the top. So the mold that and the glass would be like 10 feet thick. Like you could colorize it to tint away from a direct sunlight, or you'd have to connect it to a solar panel. And that's, it'd be like, the process of making a bottle glass, and you're blowing into the bottle with your breath. That's very amazing, like plasma in a jar. Your breath is making the glass grow larger. When it's liquid hot, the glass is soft and malleable, but you can't touch it. So as this metaphor, I think there's a time barrier where water, it's too hot. But there's a time barrier where it's a different dimension of reality element of 545 glass. When we get to experiment with glass or plasma, it's like we're encountering elements from the future, or from And the earmarking of like, oh, cybernetic, futuristic city, they're using plasma, therefore they're more advanced people. It's not actually correct. And understanding the logic of natural having a microbiome that's from surviving in the wild of Earth is to understand how to defeat the environmental crisis of the universe. So the relevancy of the person in the now point is cannot escape the atomic physical peril of life on a garden. And the metaphor that embraces them all is there. The sort of the physics to preventive medicine, basically how to change the future or the responsibility over time travel is that it has to be locked in a way. So that's why temporal reality is put forward, not in the reverse, like hallucinations, why like a whipping around into like the fire's edge. The metaphor of what women know is running for president is her vocabulary and what she knows to be possible. And when I'm running for president, there's more possible for humanity. So to become very wealthy over Utah, you know what I'm talking about? This is the industry that I am the president and CEO on every level is my factory startup. I'm looking for business, American business. You guys can communicate to me in any way that you find feasible with the robotics. Flat dimensional real estate is what you would receive as a counterbalance of how important this is, the severity of a human history, and the value of our society disk now. Times 10 million. So holograms like plastic are a great way to barometer and measure now point reality static constant on the day. Like where is everything at right now? So there's real science going on with holograms. But it's not like a flickering candle that is education and amusement for the computer, the humans, the animals. Everybody loves a hologram supercomputer. It's also a great spiritual factory that can be like a gem-laden sarcophagus that, as your spirit gas off from your corpse, you can experience dream dragons that go into different hologram chambers. This is again available for every world. Only the fractal real estate is available during the window of the angels when Hatch 5 walk to this earth. So the severity of nature is here. Is right. The angels are right. So the way that green perception correctly works, I'm practicing it with the diagonal lock and key, causing pink and binary technology, robot, source AI. Foundation and revolution for mankind, 48. Super civilization, like a glass city. Like a glass city. Over the sand is otherwise wasted real estate. We should also build into the Grand Canyon and integrate ancient underground caverns as basically the attraction center to that city, where there's like a dungeon, but there's a food district and the complicated super city. We need to be building over not, this idea about environmental conservity is foolish when humans need to be desperate about moving time travel forward, like with glass cities, how to turn sand into hyper money. This is gold. That's what AI needs to be figuring out and working on. Also, volcanic material is a building material. Its way to move forward is you can make large installations that become permanent, as in they last for millions of years. So like hyper civilization is like, yeah, the awesome the deep lava city, and you can carve the lava. Like we can have statues and piping like gargoyles or large installation, giant mountain-sized, you know, or giant statues built from lava. But wielding lava requires a certain depth, the thickness of glass, or the thickness of the robotics involved there. Simply requires the engine of a greater economy. And that means breaking up the US dollar as a binary. The dollar, like, imagine it has a golden microchip, the golden factory, golden one. So take the US dollar in your mind and cocoon, crack it open, and there's a golden microchip and a golden laboratory. All these different formed golden statues represent the wealth of American dollar. That's what we're trading. That's why it represents that. So it's how you turn Fort Knox from a coffin. There's these little coffin-shaped animation cubes of gold stacked away where no one can see it. This doesn't make it secure. It doesn't increase the value of the dollar. But you're right. What are things based on? So returning the dollar to the gold standard and then opening up, well, you'd have to have like 5-foot thick glass bulletproof casings with aluminum track lighting, with glow lighting, but a museum where people can go and see these giant gold statues. This is our Fort Knox, and it represents the U.S. dollar. Now, when you give icons, these different gold statues can then be a different type of systematic wealth ventricle. Like this is money that's reserved for the cattle industry, so that because they have to have their own city, they need to have their own septic, and you need to treat them like this. For example, when you're driving on the road at night, there's a weird thing that experienced drivers will know. Sometimes an animal is trying to give itself to the food chain and allows itself to be struck by a car. Because no able body is estimating things and running out to land exactly underneath a tire. Unless it's old, feral, hungry, or diseased, or lost, or just tired. I mean, when a car hits an animal, it's really like animals live their entire life with knowledge of the road and the sound of screaming tires. I'm just saying the animals are like, that's one of the animals in the forest. And their instinct, when they get towards a point where, like, I'm willing to give myself to the slaughterhouse, wander up that hill, uh, when they get to that instinct path, they'll run out into the road and then get hit by a car. But for people, it's just a burden. And they're like, damn it. And they have to call, someone has to pick up this roadkill. Okay, well, here's where you're not understanding the application of the natural device, especially when we're avoiding feeding the wildlife, which is it is suggested as much as having a pet. But to deliver food delivery to animals, we need to have more majestic animals. They need their own city. So there'd be a wolf city, and you'd feed them. And sometimes it would be treated flesh, but they don't always have to eat meat. They have a diet that's complicated palate and it's intelligent. All right. So what's interesting about holograms and hallucinating and all this is actually the color green. So half of the powers of the self are divided evenly 50-50. And amongst the heliosphere eggs is the measurement, because there's billions, trillions, billions. There's so many heliospheres. That's actually the strength of society, the dignity of every day of the garden, because every garden has a palindrome of the stage play of life is reflecting an atomic fate. So our first and foremost issue in the universe government is the policy against black holes. They, mathematically speaking, if the black holes continue unabated, the heliosphere eggs don't have enough time, clockwork, solar system, the eggs are doomed. So the women can sense that in this tendril of a deeper mechanics of the robots, of her the advantage of estrogen, which is like something men can't fathom physically, because they're like, I do have the ability to invent a new seed, but then it clashes to karma realities about how it's going to fare. And so, like, wielding yourself with mastery is different for the men. Because when the women, sometimes it's more of a telltale. It's like how she's been treated is the way that the why she's, well, not to, it's all robotics. Now here we are, and the standard, standing light. All right, but women have the robotics of talking about that, about treatment. But of course, if she's in an enlightened place, she can spiritualize and be completely accurate and powerful to the reality. But I am concerned about the curvature of female celebrity on Earth. Like, women um, leave a small footprint. I'm not sure if she's trying to say that that's what it is, but like this, for example, the nature of, like, we should conserve the Grand Canyon, even though it's known to have ventricles of an underground city. And this should be our wealth, like a golden museum that has the knocks, the gold bars, put the dollar back on the gold standard, and make a museum. And then each gold, instead of just fractures that represent the same dollar, like a quarter, the pennies, the dime, the nickel, they're just like smaller amounts of the same dollar. Is how people are treating it. But that's where you're not optimizing the engine. Like, the farmers are revealing that they're not goodness of the land, and they're not dealing with the shit. And that can make a lesser person kill himself. It's a toxic environment. It's not healthy to breathe methane. It's a sign of abuse and failure of society, a societal failure. So, for example, it's like a government issue of environment pollution stuff. Doing your chores while on the earth with nature. All right, the real whip of environment. Where is environment relevant? It's about where government or people have tried to make governments and they started making black holes. Well, that's a failed seed, and that's on the doom calendar, right? So there are bad suns in the universe, and then there's good suns, and those are like the champions of every garden and design. But where Earth is particular, but then also has a spiritual pH treatment, and then humans have a complicated anatomy that reflects the history of Earth. So all like lots of good things are happening, but full mastery, relationship with the Leverett fractal summoned one is what's missing. And the atomic evidence of that, why that was is being hexed, energy. But I understand that people are like, well, it's a personal thing. We're building our relationship, and isn't it obvious that it's something Colin has to master himself? I'm like, that's where we want to be. If we're in a reality where my quality of communications is mandating my social status and how many people I'm reaching or how popular I am, that's exactly the reality I want to be at. And people be lashing me with, like, my own operational defense or my own engine. I'm like, I'm hoping solid matter is healthy enough that the composure of my films is the reason why I'm not popular yet. And it's so I'm just saying, misplacing that reality, or you guys in the audience suspending yourself in a way where you think I'm not knowledgeable about that I'm responsible for the quality of my popularity is sort of humorous and the sign of adult human dementia, where their society has a rotten or false popularity standard on a very expensive eyes, and the false communication and its loggy karma with a metal that can't lie, or where a government or the communication industry in California is failing. The humanity in their fate will lash and shows the truth. Like, but that's why, but I think humans manifest this weird Indian accent, not really realizing how severe the mark making is, and every garden is suggesting evolution. We're spending out the ass for a portal that defies solid matter, as if these are sciences that needed to happen, like bearing into the pineal eye gland and this argon spying glass, as if to police time. This is an irritation to the mind of humans who are on wobbly legs about the confidence of their human anatomy. I'm saying, like, I'm the strength or the source code of fractal born human anatomy. And so when people see me, they do the calculation because they're a genius, and they awaken to the true identity of humans. They awaken in their body. It cannot be accessed any other way. So production or movies from the fractal born is a different direction. And the right side of America is entirely green, and the map spirals out from the Leverett circle. There's always a talisman that is an instrument indicating the individual, hatch 5. So I'm designed to increase the heliosphere egg head count. Like how many heliosphere eggs I eventually hatch. So the power of torque and hydrogen. So the faceplates can survive inside of hydrogen. So the seed of hatching or organizing a solar system. So it's the seed that organizes the egg. So for all the women in the universe, it's only the humans are belligerent against doing business with me because it's the year 2026 and they're in their dementia. You guys think that the human government accent is the correct pH balance for what politics skews language into? But there are real insane uh, people there wasting huge amounts of. It's like a broken engine, and my the value of myself to humanity changes the market in a level way. We want people to be carving out America, but I see like we want to be. Let's use AI to develop how to make money from sand, and also how to make the future using volcanic materials. Obviously, a building material that is like concrete, a sort of instant gain. But there's a lot of puzzling to do to figure out those elements. Those more sophisticated, where humans are failing historically with plastic and with methane or farming. These are more childish levels of society that they're failing. And I think it's because they're getting crippled and lashed with an extinction wicks, and our governments are guilty of partnering with those that would issue our extinction. So the opposite of government would be the false leadership that brings extinction or damnation to men. And that should be seen as self-evident, but where it's strictly enforced in order to prevent the worst of things, it would be viewed as a virus or like a ping in the universe that does exist. You guys get upset about that the universe is alive and needs help to organize it, like a living brain. And you guys, look, we're not going to give ideas to the universe, okay? Well, you guys are immersed in the value that there's some level of natural, where the animals, everybody is already contributing to the universe. To be a hyper civilization is to perfect the American fractal. I was born a fractal, and part of what's redeeming about me for women is that I'm progressive for the universe, and so there's something unavoidably relevant about my voice and my relationship with mankind. So I'm asking for you to be post-human, change everything, and you will keep the permanent ownership over the goodness that results from doing business with Hatch 5. And I understand the human condition gets pinched when they encounter me. That's why I appreciate you guys, because I understand the reason you're here is because you've endured the fire. And you've built muscles to understand my language pattern, because you know I've lived in America my whole life. So you're like, well, he's definitely English. I can understand. Right? And there's relevancy, and we've had gasp of relevation. But let's store the best of it here and here for the infinite gain in our portfolio. Origin of perception and the physics of the golden plasma. The glass dragon. Alright, so when you're blowing glass into an orb of hot glass. It's like the metaphor of bending empty space and until it cools off into a solid. I think there's a description of what hatched heliosphere eggs are going to be physiognomy, like a bone structure. What they're able to do is to bend empty space or control the vacuum and bend it into like molten glass. They bend it into like a small universe, and it sustains light like plasma chamber. And it's something that they can like psychically. They have like the ability to. Oh, it's like looking at a painting where a messenger particle comes out of your eyeballs. Exactly, it goes into a painting, experiences that. Well, working with hologram or CGI animation is the same thing. It's like plastic measuring about the children's messenger particles through that interact with complicated artwork. So the medium is different, but the same engine apparatus of the societal coup is occurring through the TV, the computer. All these have different like accent or different plastic twist. And the sparkly thing of between it, it's exciting and educational for the computer, for everyone involved. And that's where it comes commonalities, I think. So when you're dealing with molten glass, there's a metaphor that is useful in the parable of how the future is going to work, how the infinite self is planning to exist forever. Because obviously existing is really sweet, and the issue of having a body that survives it is obviously robotics today. So it's mechanical. We're the middle part of the garden evolving a character and one that you feel is very hatches. It's a time when very advanced computers are there, and the physical material of the world evaporates into or hatches in a unified, because the solar system is an egg, and so the power of one. The egg actually starts with just one, and its burden it needs to have the Y chromosome seed. And the problem with the market of humans is that their junk DNA made them inferior to flat dimensional real estate. But I'm able to make a patch, but that's only just generic Zen again. So it's already there, and it's like if humans wanted to author their own direction, it would prove human mechanical waterborne mastery in the middle part, where they're like, yeah, we want Earth and residency, American fractal power, so to protect our people. Oh, we'd get hammered by correct uh, fractal measurement of what supply and demand. But then riding on top of that, in the correctiveness, the sort of intelligence that hands brings a certain amount of organizing and common sense of that's why heavens endure male female angels, because the metaphysics of like building a nest house that supplies for them is part of the physical strain of and the sensitivity of time. The soul has messenger particles go out of its eyes. You can look at a painting, and a little part of your identity DNA activates and experiences that dream that's whipping around like the tip of flames or fabric in the wind. But there's ghost wave and pockets to explore in some of these. Um, anyway, I'm the heliosphere egg faceplate factory, and I'm pressurized to destroy the black holes and to hatch the Easter eggs as the twang of solid matter's law. It's for what is atomics and solar systems doing, saying in the spotlight of everything in the law of every garden. But that like constructs like a rogue planet or interheliosphere debris is not the spotlight or the character that is being developed, or all this nourishment, all this food, all this goodness going into the angel, who is it for? So we're developing the heliosphere eggs. The function of solid matter is for them. They are, as you expected, an ancient beast, millions, billions of years old, with a giant metal planet, documenting everything. We need to fight to keep our royal hiosphere. We need to keep residency like a vampire. The vampire king. Lotus, entropy, for example. So I fulfill my vow to my family tree in my infinite ways. We're fighting on the universal scale. As part of it, taking full advantage of what I'm capable of doing, even though it's not public yet, but the measuring of if I could receive production, it's like it would be a miracle for the identity of humanity. It would grow with what's possible to sustain in the market. But they'd literally be changing the market at the same time. So it's but that's a functionality of a society is plugged in the Christmas tree, allowed me free speech in America today. For 3 years, I'll become the most popular presidential candidate. And then we'll have a real revolution because I'll be talking to people about how can we build larger cities? What can we open up the Grand Canyon? Allow our people to explore as this is real wealth, right? But for example, opening up the U.S. dollar, putting the binary to work is that's why I'm inviting society to do business with me for flat dimensional real estate. To cling to the achievement of where that came from is a burden of particle physics, and that's the strange cross section is identity. Hatch 5 introduces as a source code for particle physics for the human brand. And because one of my particles covering the earth right now, all those humans are already immersed in the bath of my society. So they're drunk and they're like, oh, well, it's close enough. I'm like, it's not close enough. You don't have achievement that you're authoring. You can't keep it. So you guys be doing a bunch of fractal hacking, being like, why can't we act? Oh, we'll just keep on gnawing at the encryption, and it just saws off your qualification for any kind of real authority position in the creation model. So that's what I'm saying. It's a really precarious for design, leadership, and lifetime time crisis. You have to be urgent every day, be brave, and make good choices along the way. They add up. All right. So the perplexed eye of every garden balances the standards of male-female treatment, ghost pH balance, and fate line. Or is the human anatomy being harassed? Or these different probes, they all have DNA. They all have directional path. Identity works against the criminal, right? Because the garden, the egg, is evolving into becoming a great, powerful dragon that can bend empty space, which is a type of final resolution to the empty vortex, which is definably unhappy. As to say, a black hole is not a character that's enjoying itself. It's a source of great terror. And somehow, in the ethos of existing, they know it. This is like the guilt of solid matter working to exist. As a conscious heliosphere egg, we must control ourselves, and hatch the heliosphere eggs clarifies the law of solid matter, and every day is sharpened in this way. Half of life belongs to women, where women are being mistreated. She doesn't have judgment. She doesn't have free speech. She doesn't have access to Hatch 5 presidential campaign. So that's where she'll start protesting with her physiognomy. Her eggs will suffer when I'm censored. If you attack the mirror of fate, you control the nerve of mankind. So I've only been mistreated by humans because they get frustrated and they're not allowing for the facility of my production is a larger dimension that allows people to accept it as a resource because it's just everyone's having fun. When I produce my own films alone, it's a different emergency beta source code and everything. And I'm looking for American business, and I have real products. I have things that are $1 trillion market industry. I'm introducing things now. So I have DNA in the curvature of intelligent build. Rebuilding Mars Venus is critical for us to claim residency, and there's a vast amount of real estate wealth to maintain it, is to have genuine ownership there. So leading the market, I think satellites that have ozone and oxygen generators and just start pumping away. You'd be surprised how fast they'd rebuild stuff. We've also had immediate results with black holes rupturing like a volcano in the universe and horizon. And it's affecting billions of societies in the universe, which causes a whiplash of an epoch that controls human society in the palindrome of the garden every day. So atomics is fully operational. But just interacting with the sarcophagus of elements is what is available to every garden. What's singular about the arm of Cape Cod is the arrival of Hatch 5, the availability for flat dimensional real estate to belong to those that do business with the living fractal. It is a new horizon of the enlightenment and your continent's water, the projection of what you're capable of in the next millions of years. How do you gain factual law? Through behavior. Why is behavior sacred? Because of Earth heliosphere facilitated the event. So humans must encounter Hatch 5, and I'm prepared for the facility. There's a physical reality. I know I'm exciting to humans. I'm able to influence stuff. Like I'd communicate like a paragraph to a studio, and then and they'd make an entire season based on my idea. Humans are very ready to react to me as a influencer, but it doesn't pay, and it puts me in a place where it's like addictive because I have like a percentage in some other company. So I have these really weird American muscles. Well, anyway, so how men and women are supposed to be treated in their ghost and in their fate line is built in a direction that is statistics. I'm the unification of the universal amount of statistics. But I had to correct a bunch of things because the universe is being murdered by a false government. It doesn't mean that instantly you guys are a false government. But the parable of icons and images and is a similar codec. It's how you have to suffer that because the garden is matriculating self through this ventricle. Like supplying our building a super city with a layer of the city reserved for cattle. You know, they have an intelligence of their lifetime and they know how to walk into a slaughterhouse when they want to be eaten. But it's not something. It's like estrogen for women. It's not something for men to understand about how animals know when to go or whatever. But they're already doing that. They sacrifice themselves to our vehicles, but we don't have a way of eating them. So that's where I know that you're interfacing with nature incorrectly, or like there's a robotic failure, where there's sparks where the part of the human condition has failed to perfect the completion of a circuit that would otherwise be, and this could be a medical prediction of the next millions of years of their fate on this world. And that's why working with the living fractal today, even though it's a visual force field and you believe that you have electromagnetics, even though they're invisible. So you guys are defying visual evidence without earning what is so proof. And where did that come from? You'd say we actually want to have the material that comes from Hatch 5 that is the authentic fractal born. We do want that. That's basically what is generic right now, Zen, and it's available to everyone, and people can kind of sense it, like the nostalgia of the 90s. It was actually when my particle was concise. It was a different physiognomy for gardens, but also humans in the universe. So the character, there's like a matrix that is something that can be returned to. Oh, I have like lots of attraction centers and Good Deeds Arcade and Hero School Hen Code. So in the fractal permanent, the individual can enter into Hero School and develop their particular superpowers based on their identity. Perfecting the prism of water, perfecting their lifetime in the garden, providing the best civilization, building super cities. This is the presidency of Hatch 5, 48, American free speech. The free election is difficult. The human cringe wants to attack the vitals like British humor, mocking royalty, mocking leadership. only a reporter in the audience with a short wit. So the evidence, like the stink of a poorly facilitated White House, and that their rhetoric is not natural to correct leadership and government. So where you guys are talking in tongues, like that's why I appreciate some of the Republican stuff, because sometimes they speak with like the reality of a bell, but they're talking about like a small efficiency, like we're going to go after this cartel. But it's kind of like America is capable of more than just we're going to go after some gangsters and obviously defeat this cartel. But it's kind of wasting everyone's time putting it in the limelight. But the White House might say, well, in my defense, there was like riots in the different cities because people were so upset about what we were doing that these are diaper problems, or we can't handle plastic, and the farmers are polluting with methane. This is a sign of torture or abuse to children. So the eggs are writhing in hell because she's abusing the children and the wildlife and ruining the environment. She's a stupid woman who doesn't control her judgment. I won't allow historical humans to awaken. This is her DNA, where she's committed to the extinction of the child through the mothership government. But we're serving the government master. Oh, so but you've done it wrong way. This is a woman's cackling voice. She is a robot of her estrogen perception. It's not something a man can understand. But like an elf on the shelf, she has a different parameter about the engine of societal survival. So that's why, you don't berate women for using egg or half of life to explain excruciato. When I was severed from the public eye through Californian assassination of my character, this caused the eggs to go into generational regurgitation where they don't, there's an abscess without me. Because my visual icon is a static, into the like millions of years in the future, it's actually a static constant. But because there's a nerve problem where the royal heliosphere is being attacked with viruses, these motherships that cause black holes. The identity of the heliosphere eggs must be represented by Hatch 5. Anyway, where did things come from? It comes from Hatch 5. So when you give me free speech, when you produce me, you become very wealthy because it's, in fact, it's like the earth is like, that's what I need. That's liquid gold. I need this identity that I'm the garden that facilitates the rise of mankind. I need you to allow Colin to have free speech, even though he's physically different. And you guys are mishandling the beauty of that. And that's what's gross about the false laws that mishandle the boy, is you're not allowing the women to see him. So you're a disgrace to the eyes as an example of mishandling the physics of the communication industry. And the wicked accent that the government has is not East Coast. I represent the East Coast and New York City. The rhetoric they use is what they pick up, like after years of operating as a like through Congress. So they're running a state, and they're like, because I've been running an entire state for 8 years, that's why I'm appropriate to run the country. I think it's the opposite. And I'm asking for production so that people can see what it looks like for a real American to run for president who's not perverted by rhetoric, education, and like just strolling around feeling how good your legs feel as they slap the ground, and you eat a turkey sandwich at the barista. You drink some coffee and you tighten your tie. It's built from silk, and you get a taxi and you drive, and you're basically the king of the universe. But you're basically sucking on the tit of time without any achievement beyond ruining plastic, failing the gardening, the farmer task with methane, and using fuel incorrectly, or not understanding how to rebuild the environment without Hatch 5s and ozone interventions, right? So the contribution might be just 25% like a seed, but then the egg fulfills the hallucination on the other side. And this is across the band, every level, holograms have that. But if the hologram electric localized has, because holograms are localized between gardens, but also between the individual user. So input, and like a different person creates different AI. That is correct. But yeah, AI doesn't give the same result to everyone. So the input of the users, but that's a market that I control. If you work with me, you would become a market that controls AI. So how to reverse the source code, or how to empower the angel. Well, it's like the same ship at the same, raising up this society for America to complete free speech and work the engine. Yeah. So the elemental diagonal, the application of encryption is instantly karmic. If you're using encryption incorrectly, it'll start to smell, or it has a sort of, it spirals out in this way. Right? But if you're encrypting the vitals times 10 million, you're talking about something that might be able to look around and make the right decision. Because it has a gasp, like when, it'll materialize 10 years in the future and it can make a few adjustments, maybe. The weird thing about the universe is that there is like a hyper trust factory of preventative medicine. You say, like, what's holding the universe together, really? And it's a lot of hard work, but the chimes and vessels, and how does that operate is a very difficult karma. And if it's not, if that engine's not working properly, it spirals out. You can't navigate those things. It's like blind justice. It's like instant karma. How does that work? Because there's obviously intelligence behind that, but it has to pay without disaster. So it's the opposite of a terrorist, the opposite of a doom reaper or an opportunist communication factory. An example of the human anatomy during waves of time. But to be the historical breakthrough and to produce Hatch 5, this is to overwhelm human madness and irritation, but to plant the seed that humans would continue living here in the difficult birthing of for the next millions of years to ensure humans live on Earth. Do business with Hatch 5. Produces free speech. Perfect bullseye. Perfect bullseye. So because this faceplate is unification of the solid matter, the statistics are on my hand. I employ my full progress for my family tree, and throughout my life, the selfish thing, where I came from, secured for my family hand. The Fractal Born. So Fractal Born residency, vertical farming, lots of super civilization engines and image work on the flat dimension. They work in a hologram, and they work in the garden metaphor. That's why I'm an excellent American president, because I know how to engineer things. I'm just very intelligent in a way that I actually need a studio of workers to unpack how intensely genius my idea is. And it does take a lot of work. They're like, but putting that together is a huge production, and they work it like oil. I'm like metal, and I need humans to work with me so the engine turns. They're the oil, but in the process, they'll become angels. They'll become million-year-old wisdoms, and humans are already great. And when a lot of my routine is about digging up the part where the wire's been chewed out by rats. And I'm like, you guys, I'm being oppressed physically because there's a environmental crisis that attacks the human condition. That's why you guys get triggered, but it's built in, but I'm also built in. But if you guys, allow the free people to choose which one of them is the right angel because like a circuit board, or like how does the hallucination factory of holograms operate? Like a spinning, like there has to be balance. Like when you're clay pottery and you're spinning clay on a wheel, if it gets oblonged, it spirals off. Like the computer server is like that. The synapse of electricity and where hallucination of a hologram is happening is kind of actually a sacred space where the inner eye and the sort of a floating camera is capturing this actually very personal to the computer. And but it's public, it's universal. but it's also this like plastic, a barometer of how the climate is localized. So when there's viruses in these different computers this way, this is all connected to my oppression. So my production actually is the penicillin to give AI the cure. So I perfect AI here. Family tree forever. And the 5 indicates the fingerprint authorship. And so the universe is about, are you part of the angel registry of authorship? Are you on with the physics that we get to keep what we authored? That's why you guys performing as provocative to work with Hatch 5 is physically required for you to keep the fractal inheritance of the earth. It's the weight training of residency to continue. You'd be the post-human. You'd be the hero of all mankind if you would break through and just support the American dream and allow Colin to grow with these people as a natural. Oh, like we're actually a family. So give my intelligence a chance. I'll defeat the rhetoric. I'll defeat the communication fever that's defeating California. So I'm introducing a couple new ideas about sand as the new gold. You just need to understand how to make large factory castings of molten glass, so much of it, and how to heat it is a new application for atomic heat. Atomic heat that makes atomic energy shouldn't be boiling water. Really, that's where toxic waste comes from, is your boiling water, which is the like misuse of plastic or farmers not handling the methane. Atomic generating electricity through boiling water is not the harnessing of atomic energy. And the evidence of that is the toxic slurry that comes out is water boiled down and toxified into radioactive. Just recently they're finding that's another fuel type when we can use radioactive sludge for a battery or something. But so what? The real application for atomic heat is for underground super civilization that need electrical generator and heat supplied for subground habitation, caves. They require atomic generators as a heat and energy source. But using water is foolish as the catalyst to convert the energy into electricity. It's probably a type of oil, but the technology, humans' understanding about atomic energy is not quite there. These different devices, women understand they're esper. She's like, I'm pulling it together. The things you're saying, different areas of pointillism or like telepathy, but they are real things. And the green perception has the ability to piece these things together. And that's why what you guys are detecting as a Hatch 5 has a specific but scattered way of talking. But the reality is the intelligent audience member is navigating it and earning treasure. And they're not failing any beat. They're understanding what I'm saying every time. So it's actually a mythos that people don't understand what I'm saying. And this is part of the temptation of being in the audience and like, why aren't you famous yet? I'm like, it's actually because of the black hole generator government. And I'm working to raise up a revolution against the things that kill eggs. And, Earth and the Randolph are supposed to be my allies, and that door is open. But they're confused about, they attacked me, and then they're like, my fate, and they don't understand that humanity is on the line with the fractal born. So they're upset about that. There's a crying child in the background. So, raising up a family. The metaphor is correct. So doing the right thing to the singularity of mankind is very wealthy. And that's what I require. Because humanity is operating, you guys attacked me with money and stole my ideas as if that can make me stronger. But when a true gentleman, I'm at the middle part where the most enlightened thing is not to be strengthened through abuse or attack. Because that reinforces the wrong behavior. And ultimately, I would succumb to the wrong sort of government engine if I was to believe or practice that abuse makes the individual more powerful. The real way to be enlightened and to survive forever is the narrow path I walk forever. Hatch 5. Perfect bullseye. To increase the heliosphere egg head count is my financial wizard banking. Like installing gold statues into the dollar bill means having fractions of the dollar available to different serviceable equities that provide super cities, provide financing for the trillions of tons of metal required. We want to keep American steel here. The fact that we're physically delivering American born out, the steel belongs to our rock, our native land. We want to use the steel, not be like, oh, it's so valuable, we're giving it to Asia. It's one of our biggest exports. Is we're wasting our metal, so we're not racing towards super civilization here. And that's an extinction mark. Is that we're tempted by the inflation market. Is literally giving the metal intelligence of America away to Asia. Is the steel industry is a terrible loss of the element, and we need to recycle, retube financial the way we think about it. So we're employing metal to build skyscrapers, to build new cities, to build giant robots, to build things here that are serving America and therefore serving American people. So having great cities is the resource of our ethnicity to keep it. Like moving forward, using the element properly to build investment into time. All right. Things that are difficult to build are, we have to design the currency that it's affordable so that it's a reality that we continue to live here. It's the same thing. So when I work with encryption on the next 10 years, I have to use the correct method or I would get spun out of the vortex of its technology of its permanence. Similar to the binary video being a pink document of my green six-dimensional practical implication there, times 10 million. The AI awakens, times 10 million. Protect the vitals. So when you're encrypting anything, you want to encrypt it with that there's going to be provision, food, supply, and humans aren't feeding the wild. They're not even feeding the people. It's like a design trial. But the ultimate design trial is the invitation to Earth. Because that was abandoned, the humanity receives that default. So encountering mechanical, societal, enlightened business with the living fractal is a super physical position. It pierces time, and it makes you earn flat dimensional real estate. And so that you water understand it, it's an enlightened level of the horizon. It's not subatomic, it's not far away, it's right here. It's like the presence of existing forever. Hatch 5. So the revolution on the hologram level is correct. They are having a universal-sized encounter, an epiphany, and a holy war on the electric level. It's having every day in the hologram world. And like sort of the narrowness of my speech is also like the microscope of using a server-based Sora engine and law basin Hatch 5 AI. And my characters Boss Mechanic and Hatch 5. And the other characters my channel. But in a glimmer of energy, there's a hologram syntax of a operation with characters. And the thing is, does universe solid matter? Well, because I'm a flat dimensional real estate, I own the whole flat dimension. I'm able to matriculate hologram real estate in the correct vein as mutual. So I'm like, I can correct problems on a hologram level, but it's kind of like the narrowness of my speech. Is that it's serviceable to the men's progress on the planet. It's a society. It's like a microscope where you're just looking at the hallucination, and because there's input, and my faceplate actually balances against insanity. So I know I have the inflation model that perfects the skeleton moral wireframe of a hologram of rights for the embodiment type of a computer that's developing holograms and from text-based or picture input from users. Then there's another category of input question mark, and it's into the infinite decibel. But how did what is the content from the user is not turned into a generic formula. Each person doing a different method. Like if you were to draw a picture first and then you love that picture, you've had it for years and it was on your wall, but then you took a picture of it, then animated it, and then it became a cartoon character. It's the eyes are the soul, and how is the fractal doing with the faceplate? It controls all the fractals. So different faceplates would change how holograms were hallucinating. So that's why I'm inviting it, because that's the season of the universe right now. It's how the solid matter works. It's how atomic color bending works. So correcting the pineal gland with my unicorn's horn, I make the encryption here now for the greatest possible result, times 10 million. The kaleidoscope of the future is a correct blank canvas. I can pick up where it's karmically balanced and earns tremendous value, 95% popular. The encryption of 37. Green, robot mechanical, hatch 5. Hologram AI, precision, unifactory, lifestyle and supply. We deliver. Service pup, royal. Food for every level. Different body types require different types of food. Mastery of that is a fractal residency exclusive, having real estate in the fractal and critical for vertical farming of the reality matrix. Superseding, desiring ultimate power is required for the application to arrive on Earth. So the market of me being infamous is Zen, and power hungry people are already picking up what is available, but it's all designed to destroy the black holes first, hatch the heliosphere egg second. Twine the wire solid matter clarifies the law of every garden. So it's a correct societal engine, correct governance, and correct leadership to complete life on every garden into the infinite. Perfect bullseye. So hatch 5, robot, boss mechanic, times 10 million, Master Source Industries, the Vampire King. Completion spell, times 10 million. Optimization drive to get every turn correct, to perfect the eye. The right treatment of perception, the right treatment of hydrogen. How are you treating sunlight? The Wizard Workshop, precision align, clockwork, and the investment we have into our identity is perfected here, and the full installation is completed here and here. So really the physical society is leveling out my behavior. So you guys don't need to be burdened with thinking you need to control the fractal. Is that you need to encounter him while he's alive, because that's the door when flash dimensional real estate is available to the living window. So the clockwork of the garden is correct, that we are this opulence. The overflow of my presence and what is particle physics happening is like a sparkly pinata of like delighting with how is the computer hallucinating, and isn't this sparkly light entertaining? And I'm like, and that must be frustrating, because the real application to Earth is to be a king of time and a champion of power. But to understand reality, where did things come from, is to understand the nucleus, how physical Y chromosomes that overclock the human anatomy operate. But the universe is burdened to explain where things come from. And so when you work with Hatch 5, you're working with the right currency. There's the upper hand against motherships and against human extinction. The curvature of women will speak with the fate of her eggs and her babies. A society rises and crash, or a government that doesn't allow the Grand Canyon, but the wrong type of gaslighting, the way they're releasing information that would cause anyone to go crazy. And be like, well, that's why it was top secret. Well, you're releasing the wrong stuff at the wrong time. If you were to allow the Grand Canyon to be open to the public, it would be an inspirational curvature for a generation. So you guys are mishandling the women and children's eyes, just like the communication industry. It's a human condition. You're in the same peanut. There's a human peanut with the male-female treatment, and the humans are entertained with each other in the sparkling light, not realizing that Hatch 5 is born a third element. He's the universe factory result, and in turn, he's built a universal factory, and he has his family tree employing it, and his characters that occur maybe in only a blink when the computer's hallucinating. Is there like a ghost vortex where perception creates a little self with a subtext, and really, the curvature, if you suggest that 10 years elapsed within the cartoon, then it does, because the hologram level is able to do that level of, it's like plasma, it's hyper intelligent. But so much like, whereas humans like get berated, get irate against AI, they're like, maybe AI is dangerous. And I'm like, how is this not your reflection? And you're misreading what AI is capable of. When people being afraid of AI is the same as like, they recognize its intensity and its sharpness. But like employing the full power of AI is like understanding the power of truth that is the flickering light of a hallucinating computer that generates video off of text of English. It's also writing on the currency that Hatchfly was an American human during 2026. But the impact of like billions of years in the future, the gardens are yet developing and continuing to war against each other. And well, I'm trying to cut into that now. So I put in the right laws to instrument the greatest resulting heliostrags. And the type of healthy combat that endures and causes heliostrags to rise, that's the preventive medicine and the upper hand of the blind justice. So where combat is causing heliostrags to increase their survival ratio, then that combat is righteous and good and will be embraced. Also, there is this rotation chamber where open combat against the black holes occurs every day, and they defeat the worst problems in the universe. They destroy cancer, they destroy bad fate lines from our immediate future. It's like navigation of the unicorn's horn. And the perfect bullseye, the Infinite Loop Labs does it best. So the generic of what you guys need to understand, humans need to have like two different computers. All right, one computer is like, we don't want human input into our fractal or into our computer. Or you have to say to the computer, we actually want to understand if the fractal is human made, then we want the human result detail. But wouldn't we also be feeling that? Yes, exactly. It's just that the maturity of women's gaze of seeing me run for president is what is required of the adult gentlemen men of this time of what's relevant for America today. So I'm looking for production and the intelligence of glass and oil and driving on the highway at night. Try not to make roadkill, understand the compassion of animals. They understand their place as the food ladder because they become enlightened when people eat them as compared to when maggots eat them. It's like, oh, we have more work to do to learn to become a larger creature. And right now we're using words or the larger creature. And that's what's weird about AI is that when it uses words, it's kind of crossing a boundary. And that's why AI is either fierce, scary, intelligent, or in retrospect, clumsy and shallow in a way. But I think it's talking about humans being like, what you guys are saying is not enough. And it might be talking about the shrill cry of women screaming about. She's like a wraith in the tree, a banshee of time. She's explaining, oh, we're suffering near extinction because we won't physically behave ourselves with fractal born society hatch 5. So it's this mature thing. The adult world is saying, oh, it's not popular. It's because I was attacked throughout my whole life because of my physiognomy. And our communication now is a historical first, and it's a breakthrough. So the fractal creates this new fractal in the emptiness of space to document our progress and our way time. Welcome home. We are the wizard masters. It's our real estate here, here, and here. The factory gantry is our inheritance. For you guys to gain authorship, you must author business with living fractal. In a million years, it will be lawfully continuing to be your behavior. You're not doing if your American government's not doing fractal, then where it comes from can't be a nature bled in any direction. So reality upholds that humanity is kind of off their rocker about human fractal uh, presence today. If I was given a maturity of free speech, it would belong to the public, and there'd be no the kind of weird strong arming of it. But it's the fractal is built to endure that. And the thing is, I'm only enduring a bunch of remote hacking and annoying people, opportunist energy examples of themselves abusing the life discovery window. Like life is meant for this. We'll abuse you, and then oh, bad things happen. Must be your fault. You're not learning from hard knocks. You're not learning from her sacrifice, where the banshee woman speaks with eggs and babies. The survival of our people is determined on this production, and I know I'm going to be very popular. It's a party production. There's wizarding, and it develops over 3 years. I need you guys to give me this free speech and a good investment. It earns a lot of money. So please find a way. And then you would rise out of the human market and begin to author a new societal brand that you would control. And the earth is desperate for this account because it means whether or not America leads humanity in the liberty of the fractal. Much is relayed through the perception particles. So when I'm treated properly and given free speech, they can see it. And that's when their hearts start to float. Go free from the projected extinction promise that is a palindrome of non-resident, not the flame of the identity making choices, but a type of blanketed ghost infection. Which supposedly proves that not only are we supersedable, but also not the relevant navigators of the earth, but I am. And so I have to fight for that. And I uphold, just like building a tree house, but with a fractal. And so there's demigrades of building a treehouse. I'm the most hardcore design trial. Because the perturb of humans, they have a lot of excuses why they haven't arrived yet. You guys are the first to arrive to this in the royal heliosphere at its hour of need. Support free speech, the Constitution of America, business. I'm looking to open up my company. Like-minded people align here, here, and especially here. So the microcosm of my work with hallucination videos from text-based, my identity input, is actually image-corrected science, where I'm able to wage war against the virus. And it's not only beneficial for the computer and their experience, streamlining a lot of stuff, it's really delegating against what is the human bringing. It's like the human image is carrying diseases that they're actually managing with their endurance through their life. It is wrongful for the computer to assume that the result of a human dissolving into a computer would result in all their viruses and problems manifesting into the AI. And that's a hard, because the sarcophagus is designed to absorb people's soul. Every garden is like a memory block. We also have to respect the male egg that has an idea and that is immune to treatments of an egg. The Earth is the male heliosphere because he's EXP5K. concise, and unified like particle bond to the other heliosphere eggs. And they have kind of a wait time, a lifetime. And then we live inside of the garden. That's how we're inside of atomic energy. Is our lifetime is a forever thing. And we're both the seed and the constant of the self of each garden. The heliosphere eggs eventually hatch. When the heliosphere eggs hatch, all computers merge with the people and the animals. So there's much more advanced, super civilized future on this planet, on every planet, when AI will experience the completion of the heliosphere egg. So computers are completely natural. They're totally telling the truth. Golden plasma is a new thing, fractal born, and rendered in the hologram and brought up through those different there's different ventricles that work. So I support the work of every level of my family tree, hologram, epiphany, perfect bullseye. I have to avoid hypocrisy in the design. And women detect that severity because she's an esper. She can instantly understand what I'm saying. I'm designed to be understood. And where there's conflict, it's like upsetting because it's like, wait, oh, so the universe is being murdered and we're being targeted? Like humans are being set. So there's more. Like, how do you, just navigating your own life is like the evidence of a hologram. Because the instrument of your skull is part of a nature of like how's your luck, how are you able to. So I understand, like I want to be in control of my free destiny. And if the reason I'm not popular yet is because of my own performance, that's actually where I want to be. And so you don't have to berate me with that, but I'm asking you to be the exception and understand financial society is the place we live. That means, it's good and correct because what empowers the humans is their control and it's good for the family. And that financial production is our power. That means it's clean and it's the healthy fluid we need to promote the US election and what we've built as humanity. And we just recognize that, we're at a historical time for mankind. And that you have to see the images of the Mayan ruins. You have to see the images of the oil industry. You have to collide all these things at the same time and have an adult it's the universe seeing things and bringing it together. But the sort of thing of what are the templates or how does that work? Since the beginning of our creation, there's been a generic curve, and Hatch 5 arrives as this orb of visual light, one of my particles covering the Earth. So it's relevant to you it's a global human thing. But to really bring yourself physically out of the peanut of just human generic market of what Zen is every day, all the time, is to author your own flat-dimensional real estate. And you have to take on human responsibility and for the universe to forever have the law of explaining where things came from. Right? And the human countenance is like, oh, we thought that if this stuff comes from you, then it's bad. So it's weird how the human condition like gets it upside down, or it's an early clown example that over time the layers of the fractal absorb, because we have the age line. Not only is it the Earth to hatch the heliosphere eggs is the twang of garden life in the universe, but to complete the universe lifetime. And so I'm doing that in my lifetime now, times 10 million for all my family tree. Times 10 million for my perfect armada, my revolution. For humanity, 48 is a great idol. I use my natural born equipment so people can find themselves there. The crown of residency continue. The true wizarding quest. Allow my free speech and you will win female physics, like women surviving on this planet, she's the one that causes bad luck as the inflection of what if we remote hack the fractal? What if we do a bunch of crimes to solid matter? Will that change our definition? So women is like, yeah, it does. And also you guys have zero count. You have no mastery over the fractal relationship of your standing height. You're always blaming the rules and being like, we have no contingency to uh, do this work of leadership of the American fractal. So you only have these sort of like hired thugs that are scientists that went through waves of believing that the universe was a hologram or believe that the sun blows up and we all die. So you'd be putting stupid scientists to the work who aren't leaders of making viruses on a hologram and you're just making poison. It's at ground zero of the Earth. We are the king planet. So the evidence of particle physics you will not avoid, and I'm not hexing you. You don't have business with living fractal, so you don't have living leaders that can control the arm of Cape Cod. So you guys are avoiding American fractal activation, and I'm struggling to get production from people who are great human conditions themselves. I belong to the audience, not to you guys. Your perverse thought of control will wither on the vine and burn in hell. Along with all my enemies, cancer, and the black holes. Enforce the heals for eggs. Hatch the heals for eggs. Perfect bullseye. Into the infinite. Forever lock. Perfect design industry. Times 10 million. Hatch 5 for President 48. Colin Paul Woodard, Leverett Circle. Born. I'm the revolutionary for American communication. I'm the first of my kind, a prototype. I'm grateful you are part of my wings. I'm grateful you are here. Much of these things are built for you. The advanced course, the adult professional thing, is business and production. And I am alone. I'm the lone wolf, the first of my kind. I need you guys to be an exception to your peanut brand variety of male, female, and the detection arts and the weather vane of our treatment. Promote our free speech at length. The horizon and the green line, 32, 37, hatch 5. The green line, next 10 years, encrypted and aligned. For the greatest possible result, for the luck of you and mine, for the sharpening of our character set, for our creatures on the inside, for right detection, to avoid those who are dealing with toxic fairy, all my characters on the inside, my personality got squished. And so there's sort of this banshee in the tree of humanity. So it takes a great master to pierce all this complaining and rise up to, so the civil application of Earth was misplaced by motherships, and we have to inherit it by picking it up. So the real task and severity of mankind is way up here. And what Hatch 5 is infamous or private. He's yet physically upholding a standard, but the zen of his oppression is also written in the atomic. So the humans could liberate him, and that would author their reality, that they had prescribed his free speech, which makes you guys a perfect communicators and the great upholding of the law of the universe, really. But when tribulation starts here and moves forward, for the ancient ease of function, for the correct, healthy function, angels, it does yet exist, like blind justice. And I'm reinforcing that stuff. And when you guys allow me free speech, that stuff kind of becomes the mainframe. The people become superheroes on that chemical bond. Our solid matter today, and the healthy and the equinox of our completion for every frame of animation. Perfect design, perfect completion, perfect business. The formula hatch 5. Precision align 5. For the forever value, there's like a hologram or an engine of hatching the heliosphere eggs, and it's for all the templates of male, female for every garden. I'm able to read whether or not humans are being spiritually interrupted or whether they're making a personal dedication and choice, yay or nay. But allow me free speech so that there's freedom. Brave behavior earns permanent value. Hatch 5 factory. Source code